This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in our Sacramento Bureau. Today we are joined by Lupita Cortez Alcala. She is the Executive Director of the California Student Aid Commission. We'll talk about the commission in a moment, but first I want to speak about you.
Thank you
and
for having me.
I want to hear about your story and how you benefited from financial aid in college.
Great. Well, I was born in Tijuana. My family came and immigrated to the U.S. when I was 3. I was an English learner.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that because I was the only one in kindergarten that didn't understand the language.
What city?
Poway.
Okay, Poway, which is San Diego County.
North San Diego County. And I actually, my brother and sister and I all started sort of about the same time. And
they're older?
They're older. I'm
so
the youngest of 4.
So that was probably very challenging for them.
Very challenging. Well, we're about a year apart.
Okay.
And so at the time they didn't have bilingual education, so we all flunked. I flunked kindergarten, which I can barely live down, and then my sister was first and my brother was second because that's the way they retained you in order to get more proficient in the language. We didn't have other services and did some speech therapy. But anyway...
You didn't need speech therapy. I mean, you didn't...
At the time...
But that's how they did it.
That's how they did it at the time. And in this community, we were one of the only Latinos in this community. So, but I had great teachers in that school district. My father immigrated, but he knew where to place us. While they didn't have a lot of expertise in the American educational system, they knew where to place us.
So fast forward, you wind up going to college. Where'd you go?
I went to University of California, San Diego.
Yeah, and then where'd you go?
And then Harvard.
Harvard, yeah.
Yeah, so I made it.
You made
from
it.
Kindergarten, but got to Harvard.
How were you able to pay for UCSD and or Harvard?
We were a middle-class family, but during the '92 recession, my dad lost his job. He was a civil engineer, and so I was a Cal Grant recipient, and that's the only way I was able to go to college. I had the grades, I had the AP classes, I worked really hard, and that very first quarter, he was laid off, and so, but for the Cal Grant, I wouldn't have been able to go to UCSD.
So, you're paying it forward.
I am paying it forward.
You are now the Executive Director of the California Student Aid Commission. What does it do?
We administer free grants to students, so money they don't have to pay back. If you have a GPA and the need, you are entitled to a grant. And so we administer $2.2 billion in California grants.
Let's talk about them specifically.
Yes.
We'll start with the Cal Grant program.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So the Cal Grant program, there's an A, B, and C. That's a little too much detail, but you just need to have a 2.0 GPA and qualify for financial need.
Okay.
You can also qualify for the Cal Grant A, which is a little higher, 3.0 GPA.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have Cal Grant C, and that's for anyone that wants to go to college. It doesn't have to be a 4-year university to a CSU or UC. It could be a community college. It could be a technical career. And so it's vocational education. We cover all of those grants as well.
And you talk about qualifying. In order to qualify, it's pivotal that you fill out what's known as a FAFSA.
Yes.
Tell us about the FAFSA, and we'll talk about the other programs as well.
So this year, which is great, we are able to open up that application. It's called the free application for free student aid, called the FAFSA, and it starts October 1 instead of January 1, and it goes all the way until March 2nd.
Okay.
So you have this whole that whole period of time for anyone that wants to begin school in 2017-18 academic year.
Got it.
Yes.
There are more scholarships.
There
A new one, relatively new, is known as the Middle Class Scholarship.
Yes.
What is that?
So for those students that don't qualify for the Cal Grant A, B, or C under the low income threshold, for middle class families, the legislature and the governor recognize that there are some families that wouldn't qualify but still have the need when going to Berkeley for a year is $30,000. So
it's such a common story. When it's called middle class, it truly is.
You make
too much money to qualify for financial aid as we know it, but you don't have enough money to pay $30,000 for Berkeley or $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for USC.
So for a couple or a single parent, you can earn up to $156,000 and still qualify for a middle-class scholarship.
That's pretty good. I mean, you're making $150 a year. You're doing well.
Depending on how many kids you have and how many are going to college, you still, of course, and that is for the University of California and for the California State University, for those two.
Those are what, which is 23 and 12, is that right? I mean, a lot of institutions.
And both of those pay for tuition and fees. And then oftentimes when you fill out the FAFSA, that federal the free application, you can also qualify for institutional aid and for loans. And for students that are not documented, there is a California DREAM Act application.
Let's talk about that, because that also is a relatively new program.
A few years old.
Right, older than the middle class scholarship, but not by much. Tell us about the DREAM Act.
So the DREAM Act is for all students that have been residents, have, for all intents and purposes, been residents of California, been in high school for the past 3 years, and have the need and have the GPA. They're not taking anything from anyone else. Everyone else is entitled through the Cal Grant. It's still a Cal Grant, but it's its own application that's mirrored after the FAFSA. You don't have to have a Social Security number. You just have to certify that you intend to seek legal residency. And so that's really the only qualification. Same need, same income, same student that has been here practically all their lives, but have an opportunity to go to college.
This may be out of your purview, but if I may ask, are you able to help those students navigate the immigration system? Because obviously you can get a degree from UCLA, but if you don't have citizenship or at least permanent residency, you can't get a job after you graduate.
So our agency primarily focuses on getting the students access and opportunity. However, there are these centers on campuses called DREAM centers or migrant centers that are very much able to help those students navigate after they graduate to graduate school and into different areas that they can have access to careers.
I want to ask you about the kind of public-private university systems, because I think for so long there was this view that private schools were so prohibitively expensive that folks wouldn't even look at them. I don't know if this is in your purview, but I've recently learned that they may have their own financial aid programs, which are quite lucrative and should not be ignored.
Absolutely.
Could you talk about that?
So when we offer financial aid for tuition and fees, it's not just for community college, CSU, and UC, but also for privates. And it covers a certain amount of tuition and fees. I think this year it's up to $9,000 or something around there. And so, but the actual private institutions also have institutional aid. They have sometimes very large endowments that can cover the financial aid needs of a low-income student, sometimes more so than a state university. We just want students to have options and choices. And if you work hard in this state, you can go to any university, and financial aid shouldn't be your issue or a problem. Okay,
so in our final moments, Lupita, tell us exactly what the students who are seniors right now, they're about to enter their final year, what do they need to do?
They need to fill out the free application for financial aid starting October 1. It's at our website, www.csac.ca.gov.
And
they actually need to, if you don't have a Social Security number, you can fill out that same website, the Dreamers Act application. And it's easy as that. We process, we let you know how much you're entitled to. You set up a Students for Web Grants account, and you can monitor where your money is and when it should arrive.
It all comes around.
Yes.
She is Lupita Cortez Alcala. She is the Executive Director of the California Student Aid Commission. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's Local Edition.